So here we are again in the Frameless Forum, day one of the Jena FullDome Festival. All Cyberdome, all virtual, but with the quality of distant proximity connected to all the world that is watching. It's May 14th. It's a beautiful Thursday in Jena and all over the world. And I'm thrilled to meet a good friend and deep dive immersive artist and underwater cinematographer. I think everybody knows already this can only be Lawrence Curtis, and here he is. Hello, Lawrence.
Hi, Mickey.
Good to see you, good to hear you. You are in your little dolphin immersive dome, and I think since everybody by now knows, immersion comes from the Latin immersio, which means diving into. Now you take that literal. You dive, you meet animals, creatures, scenarios underwater. I don't know, when were you last in the ocean? And I'm so happy you popped up for this conversation, but what was your last oceanic experience?
Well, it's wonderful to hear you and see you and be a part of this. Hi to everybody in the FullDome world at the festival. The last time I was in the water was actually, I guess I got back on the 19th of March. I was in the British Virgin Islands doing a shark filming science expedition on the research boat, the Shark Water. So we were filming and tagging sharks to see what the health of the population is there, see if it's a nursery. There's very little known, but also part of my philosophy is to be involved in projects that we help the local communities. So that was the last time I was in the water. And then sadly, the way the world has gone and we're all kind of in a lockdown, I'm starting to dry out a little bit. I can only spend so much time in the bathtub, but I'd like to get back into the ocean.
Yes.
But then again, one thing that is remarkable about the FullDome concept, artistry, the world of immersive theater is that when we don't have the ability to go into these places, we can project it into the dome and we can be as if we are there. And so there's a wonderful positive to this. And so that's also what I know that you and many others of us are working to bring people into these environments that they may not be able to get into. Certainly swimming with dolphins or whales or sharks may not be in the scope of many people, but with the projection domes and creating compelling imagery and stories, we can do that for everyone. Well, so it may be an interesting time that people are going to maybe not use their TV so much and they'll get their own personal domes.
Yes, and in a way I'm a little envious for your little private ocean dome right behind you. Of course, yes. You're at home, you are an ocean man, and your company is called Cetacea, that is the name for the whales and dolphins. And yes, I think the audience appreciates to be able to enjoy the wealth and the beauty and the fragility of the ocean world with the help of your camera work. You're not only diving and interacting with the marine world, you're also recording it, and which is particularly important for our work here, you're also recording it in 360 degree. Now, people enjoy seeing these water scenes. What is the practicality of recording 360 underwater scenes?
Well, there are definitely challenges, but there also, with those challenges, there are aspects that really are exciting. When I first started getting the inspiration of the domes, it was in 2008, and I went to a FullDome or a planetarium conference in Chicago. And it was around the time when the Red 1 camera, the ultra high definition 4K camera came out, and There was someone who had shot some footage with it, and they were projecting it onto the dome. And I remember thinking, wow, we're almost there to do live action. And as much as I love and admire and appreciate the FullDome planetarium shows for the cosmos, if it wasn't the cosmos for subject matter, what else would we do? Well, underwater lends itself perfectly well to be able to be in a space when the dolphins are swirling around into that circle is really remarkable. So it immediately caught my attention. It immediately turned into a new passion and furthering this mission of inspiration, creating wonder, tapping into that childlike bewilderment. On the practicality side of things, I'm using quite expensive cameras. I have to look at things differently because traditionally for documentaries, we're looking at the frame. And as we've kind of heard the phrase, we explode the frame. And so when you're filming, you don't film linearly in the sense of an edit. It's okay to let things live. So that actually is a different psychology that I have to use in terms of being into the water when I'm filming from the audience's perspective. With FullDome and immersive theater, it really serves everyone well if we're thinking about what the audience is experiencing. So little subtle movements may not work. You have to be very steady with it. The challenge is, I've at the beginning, I think I was filming for about 2 years initially, and I would come back. I didn't have a reference point to see what it would look like in the dome. And then, Mickey, you're going to have to help me out, but that wonderful, my first venture to Jena, yes, to give a presentation on your invitation was absolutely life-changing for me in so many positive ways. But also, when we got to project some sample clips of the dolphins at the planetarium in Jena, at the Zeiss Planetarium, that was the first time I ever got to see my footage in the form that it should be. And it was really amazing. I remember you there and Jürgen and a few other people.
Andre was there, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just really kind of awe-inspiring. And I was very humbled, but also going, wow, whoever shot this did a really great job.
So well, everybody agreed now, and humble Lawrence doesn't mention that this little film actually got him a Janus Award for a very amazing experimental excursion into the deep ocean, yes, with a kind of a curious meeting of animated octopus and real dolphins. But that's exactly the artistic, it's not only a challenge, it is a new world where we can have the footage and the reality of the biology of the ocean and the artistic inspiration of scripting it into a different kind of narrative. And yes, it's awe-inspiring, and I totally agree that space and ocean are kind of mirror images of each other. For the simple reason, both are kind of vertigo spaces. If you are an astronaut in space, there is no floor, there is no horizon as we know it as kind of the land-based mammals that look towards any kind of the end of the physical Earth. But there is no below, no up, no right and left. You have to educate yourself into a new sense of orientation. Now, when we are in the dome and see astronauts floating around, we may still be stuck to our planetarium seat, which is sometimes a blessing, sometimes a curse. But of course, the astronaut, they don't sit, they float in three-dimensional open space. And the same is true for the diver. Until you reach the ocean floor, there may be miles and miles to go, and you don't want to actually be the first to get there. So, which means the diver is also in three-dimensional, immersed in three-dimensional space, which is your experience as a diver, and to communicate that natural but unusual experience to the Dome audience, I think is a wonderful task. And it helps people become aware of, hey, this is the reality of the world that we live in, and the world is bigger than the flat Earth. Of course, the Earth is not flat, but the impression of being on a firm ground is just one experience of being in the world and being in the natural world.
Mm. Yeah, beautifully stated. Beautifully stated.
You can also disagree. It's not. We're just chatting.
I don't know if I've ever disagreed with you. You always have these wonderful bits of wisdom, so I'm not going to disagree when you're completely correct. It's a beautiful space to work in, and that was really part of the motivation. Is that what tools and what format are available to give people that true immersion into the space that I'm so fortunate to be able to be in. And again, you know, on that first trip to see the footage projected, I knew I was onto something, and I knew that people were going to be receptive to it. And it doesn't have to be a narrative. You know, this wonderful piece that was the collaborative effort of echolocation, which, by the way, I have the award. I was going to bring it here. It's in my bed because I still sleep with it, and it's a nap right now. So maybe later I'll put it here on the table. Okay. But, you know, to see how people tap into that bewilderment through this medium is really exciting. And, you know, it took me a while to try and get the resources together to have my own dome. I've had it here in my place in Miami for about 2 years now, and it's really great. I kind of consider this place my mad scientist laboratory. And of course, with technologies, I'm embracing technology more. I just spoke with a friend earlier, and she was telling me you should love technology and start visualizing working with it rather than being, you know, fighting against it, which is previously what I've been doing. Kind of like today with setting up, my laptop battery went out, so that's why I was a little late on this, on our video conference. But the space of fluidity that the ocean provides, the vastness of the open ocean, the wonderful creatures and critters that you encounter there, that is something that the Dome experience really gives people a sense of. And as you mentioned, you know, if we're fixed in a seat, or maybe we're at Toscana Therma floating in the wonderful saline water and looking at imagery above us, that to me is kind of more of an ideal representation of what I experience in the water.
Well, we are busy working on that ultimate solution of doing away with the chairs, floating in body temperature salt water, and being able to look up and see the totality of the hemispheric projection. Until then, we live with what we have, and yes, there is no way around embracing technology and the tools that it offers to us. But then I think it's also important to, I consider you a kind of a messenger who brings messages from a world that for some people is alien, strange, maybe even they kind of are a little frightened of it. But the thing that fascinates me of your work, of Cetacea, and the message that you bring is, now we are interacting through technology from human to human. But there is a mystique and a different kind of life when you communicate to another species, like a cetacean species. Maybe you want to share some of what that means for you as a human in a diving suit and as an underwater cinematographer.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you know, maybe everyone in the audience doesn't know this, but Mickey, you and I connected on that very subject, on consciousness, cetaceans, dolphins. We talked about John Lilly's early work in the 70s, your amazing work and your history. And we just fused immediately, brothers forever.
Yes, and we did it at the Immerser conference in Denver, Colorado, in I think it was 2014 or something. Yeah, that's
like that. Yeah,
that's where we
met.
met. Okay.
And yeah, it was just absolutely fantastic. And I knew immediately that this is a perfect friendship and partnership, and to explore these areas of how technology can help facilitate consciousness. My early beginning story on my connection with dolphins really came from the fear of sharks, fear of the ocean. And I read everything I could as a child on what sharks were, what other creatures are in the oceans. I always had an affinity for dolphins. As I grew and went through my educational process and undergraduate and graduate studies in psychology, and I was focused on consciousness and cognition, which brought my childhood passion of dolphins back kind of full circle. These are self-aware beings. They have the same neurological systems as we do, although theirs is more enhanced, more developed. So these are people of the ocean. They are persons. They are self-aware. What I am looking to do, this may be a bit of my dreamer side, is I want to tell the story of these conscious, self-aware beings, and really in hope for us to see that, hey, there are other beings on this planet that are so much like us in this neurological sense, in this sense of self-awareness, that hopefully then we will look at our own consciousness and be more responsible with what we do, how we tread on the earth, how we consume, how we need to be better stewards. I don't know if I have actually the proper words to describe this beautiful fascination between consciousness, cetaceans, the bigger picture, and how we work together. I've been very, very fortunate over the years and continue to be connected with dear friends that are scientists in the fields of cetacean biology, some that are doing communication projects that are using AI and technology to potentially communicate with dolphins. What do the humpback whale songs mean? Are they telling the story of their culture? There's so many parallels, and one of the main movements for my Prime project that's been this ongoing Cetacea project is to break it into these components of how we are similar, how dolphins live in an acoustic aquatic world, but how our lives are very similar to theirs in terms of culture, language, consciousness, cognition, sense of self, and sense of something greater. I think I've drifted a little bit from your original question, maybe because I'm not in the mode of being too much of a philosopher now. I'm still drinking a little bit of coffee here, so.
You're perfectly welcome to drift and to drink coffee and whatever. No, I think this section of the Jena FullDome Festival is called Frameless Forum because we want to really invite unframed, uninhibited consciousness to express itself and to relate itself with experiences that are authentic and real to the tool and the dome as our second home, or as the vessel to contain experiences that can only be credibly communicated inside the dome. There are so many screens, flat world, media around, that it's precious to have access to the 360-degree immersive media. And I think the sense of preciousness is what connects the really good FullDome shows with precious dives into the world of a conscious ocean, or of an ocean with conscious living beings there. And I can only kind of circle in my own words around this mystery and the evoke the spirit of, it takes some courage to imagine the world vastly different to what we thought the world is like. Now the thing is, with the corona situation, everybody is called to slow down and reflect and to think, well, the world will never come back to a kind of normality as we've experienced it last year, which wasn't even normal at that time. But when we are called to reconstruct our relationships to ourselves, to technology, to the world, to animals, to the earth, to the air, to the water. So we are constantly in this process of redirecting, redesigning, reimagining that world. And I believe your work and the work in the FullDome Festival and the FullDome world may be one of many potent tools to help reimagining, redreaming the world so that it becomes a place to enjoy and sustain for more than just a happy few.
Yeah. I mean, there's, the world has changed, and I'm trying personally not to succumb to the challenges of the unknown. Change is one of the only things that's constant in life. So adaptability is what we've evolved to do, and we should continue to be more adaptable. Looking at where is the future from now, of course, it's all on our minds as to when will we be able to gather again. We're social animals. We're using technology to connect, which is great. But are we going to be limited in terms of gathering for a show, a FullDome show? I don't think so. I look at it a little bit more positively. I think that also this will be an opportunity for us to kind of retool maybe the messages that we send to be a little bit more direct, maybe a little more free-flowing on the creative side of things. Coming from the documentary world, where you almost kind of spoon-feed people in the sense of a story or a documentary, you're relaying the day in the life of an animal, and you have maybe David Attenborough speaking in the background, telling the audience what they should be seeing or thinking. What I find beautiful in the art form of the FullDome is that it can be free form.
Yes.
And can be this wonderful expression that is, lack of a better term, but a video poem. So you have sights and sounds, and my passion, as we know, and we're discussing, is dolphins and whales. And living in an acoustic aquatic world, they produce this cacophony of sounds that all have meaning. It's like metadata. It's like we hear one frequency in our threshold, but there is so much going on within that beam of sound, within that the frequencies of sound. And to present that in the dome, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at the Zeiss Planetarium, how many speakers do they have? How many channels? I want to say it's like 64.
I love that question. It's exactly 64. I think they have 2 subwoofers and then one right on the top. So it really allows the audience to experience acoustic events in three-dimensional space, as opposed to that the sound is where the speakers just happen to hang. So that is the acoustic immersive 360-degree world is equally important to brilliant digital projection of 360-degree visual worlds. And of course, that's an analogy to how cetaceans communicate in the water. They don't communicate where the speakers are, they communicate in 360 degrees, and then it can zero in and all that. But as we are free floating between vast cosmic philosophies and the practicalities of an underwater cinematographer. Lawrence, there's kind of the classical questions at the end of any interview. Lawrence Curtis, what is your next big project? What can we expect from your alchemical underwater laboratory and your dome behind you in the foreseeable future?
Oh my gosh, infinite possibilities, first and foremost. The completion of at least the first couple of episodes of Cetacea. I am also working on a shark FullDome project for an organization, actually the ship that I just came off of, the Sharkwater, to help them to kind of look into this new medium. And the hope is to have, when the ship goes into port, to have a transportable dome set up for the community. There's also, you know, everything's kind of on hold now with the state of the world because we can't travel. This is a time for me to go back into that incubation period. But the things that I have been working on that, you know, we have all hope that here very soon we'll be able to get back to some form of normalcy and go traveling. I've been connecting with a lot of island nations that have been so inspired by seeing what the dome can do, the potential for it. So countries like Palau in the South Pacific or in the Pacific, French Polynesia, Tonga, areas that I go to document and film the wildlife, the whales, also in the Bahamas as well. I've got a project going on there. It helps to engage the locals. And one of the main things about conservation is we won't protect what we don't know. We protect only what we love. And in order to love something, we have to understand it and see it. Often in these island nations, they don't get the opportunity to even go out onto the water to maybe encounter whales on a whale trip. So I'm working in collaboration with some different organizations to bring domes into those communities, and then to first showcase what is the beauty of the wild, of nature in their own backyard, and then of course to connect with scientists or nonprofits and schools, educational institutions, to work collaboratively, but it all happens within the dome. There's also another project that I'm working, which, Mickey, I think you would absolutely love, and I think a lot of people are kind of exploring this aspect of the dome, but using it as sound healing. This dome, actually, I had some friends that came to house sit for me, and he's a healer and massage therapist, and he had his table set up here and would bring clients in. We'd have some projections going on and the 360 sound happening, and it was a completely different experience for his clients and for him. So I'm also going to be working in Tulum, Mexico. We're going to be putting up a dome there, maybe have an artist collaborate to do more of a shell of a permanent space and use it for a variety of different things. The dome is the auditorium for the world. People can have presentations there, like TED Talks. You can, of course, use it for its intended purpose of these beautiful FullDome films and presentations. So there's a lot going on. I hope that I will be able to get back into the water soon. You know, here we are on May 14th. So this is typically the beginning of the dolphin season for me to go back. So it really is about creating and building more content. And then I'm going to do a shameless plug out to everybody in the audience. I am looking for animators and editors. And it doesn't matter where you live in the world. We can do this remotely. Forgive the shameless promotion, Mickey. But
Wonderful.
I think that networking with all of us creative minds and inspired souls to work on things. I had been very tight and locked in with this project back a few years ago and thought I could do it all myself, ridiculously. But I had kind of forgotten that I'm speaking to the most creative group of FullDome aficionados on the planet.
Hey, audience, did you hear this? Lawrence is asking for your creative input, and expect about 2,000 applications over the next 24 hours.
Well, perfect. We have time to do some things now, so this is good. No, I appreciate you letting me do a bit of a call out here, because the time is now. It's taken a while for people to kind of see what's going on. I know here in the United States, more people are familiar with the domes. They're kind of doing the festival circuit in a lot of ways, which I'm involved with one particular festival where we would have the dome set up. So yeah, it takes a team. It takes a team of creatives, and it takes passion and tapping into our own childlike bewilderment to create something that is remarkable.
Yes, I totally agree. So actually, in the course of this first day program, the Frameless Forum, we had Corina Gutsche in the morning. She was talking about the necessity of green media production, a very, very important thing. We had Laura Zenger, who is a professional 360-degree TV and film producer. We had Johannes Osterburg with a wonderful dome game, and now we have Lawrence Curtis bring it all together in a big vision of how the world might evolve into as we all kind of bring in our little participatory talents into this thing. Lawrence, it's great to talk to you. We close the Frameless Forum on day one in the Jena FullDome Festival, and hope to see you soon in the flesh. Take a good dive, and goodbye till soon.
Yeah,
brother.
Brother Mickey, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're doing. I'm so grateful that you're happy, healthy, and well. Please send my love to everyone over there, and we will definitely see you soon.
Yes.
And we'll see you in the dome.
Okay, though. Bye, Lawrence. Take care.